Vault of Horror. Let's move on. Alright, talking about the wraparound first, as usual. We have the elevator that's playing through the opening credits. Everyone's getting on. The elevator goes to the bottom, opens up, and they all have to come out. I like that plot device. I think it's cool. I think it's cool that everyone... Because that's just it. Like, when you get on an elevator, it takes you wherever the hell it wants to. It lets you off. It's not going to close its doors. It's not going to move up or down until you get out. As soon as you get out, it closes the doors. There's no button. There's no way back in. You're in a room that's closed off. You're fucked. I mean, an elevator in that way is a scary thought if you're thinking of it like this movie portrays it. So, yeah, I dug that. Now, the wraparound itself, yet again, is kind of lackluster. It's funny how they respond to it. The door opens up, and in front of them is like a bunch of booze and a round table, and they're just like, well, let's take advantage of it. Let's make best. Like, none of these guys had plans. None of these guys are worried that they're trapped in a room with no button. None of these guys are freaked out. Nothing. They just are all like, oh, let's make the best of a bad situation. Have a drink and sit down and talk about our dreams. As I said, these movies need to move along. They only have so much time, so we're not supposed to get a lot of character development in the opening because we don't have all that time to do it. They can't have 5 minutes or the 10 minutes where the guys are like, oh my God, how are we going to get out of here? And they're fighting and this and that. You could do it, but they choose not to. They choose to just take all the time they have and put it into the segments because the wraparounds in this one and the last one seriously amount to maybe 5 minutes at best. They really focus all of their attention on the segments because in all reality, that's what people are there for. You kind of know going into these what's going to happen. Like, the wraparounds are people talking, and at the end, they find out they're dead. Like, the Amicus stuff is pretty redundant in that way, and not in a bad way. It's just kind of like, all right, here we go, same thing. It's a warning, or it's this, or it's that. So, but yeah, all right, let's move on then. Like they do. Let's not spend too much time here. Let's get into the segments. Spoilers, obviously. So, first segment. Now, this guy hires this private investigator, is what I think he is, to find his sister because he wants the inheritance. Kills the private investigator, then goes to find his sister, kills her, he thinks. And then he goes into this town that she lives in. He goes to try to have dinner, and they're like, we need to close up shop. Sun's going down. He's like, what the fuck? And they're like, they come out at night. And he's like, all right. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, it's not even dinner time yet, and you guys are closing up shop. This is bullshit. Goes over to another restaurant, orders all this food, brings it to the table. It's all blood. He's drinking it. He thinks it's a soup, spits it out when he realizes what it is. And then I really like that, they have this ability to out the imposter. Like, they have it set up in the room, like, oh shit, because pretty much everyone in town seems to know of their existence. Like, those people are closing up shop. It's weird, like, they just accept that they're there. They don't move out of town. Like, they don't bother them. Because they say, like, this is so much better than the frozen stuff at the end of the segment because they're drinking fresh blood from the guy who wandered into their den or their restaurant. And it almost seems like there's a truce between the people in town and the vampires. Like, you don't bother us, we won't bother you, we won't kill you, and whatever. So they come to these restaurants and they're like, oh, this is fresh, and this is what we got tonight. Like, it's a special. Instead of them going out and feeding, they have this own restaurant where they bring in their own blood. So I thought that was an interesting thing. Like, there's actually an agreement between the town and the vampires. Like, you don't bother us, we won't bother you. You go in, we won't come out and get you. We'll have our own little club. We'll freeze our blood. Where they get that blood, I don't know. Is it human? Probably. How'd they get it? I don't know. So I thought that was cool. And then, as I said, I like that they have like this little device in there. Like, they just pull the curtain back in the mirror and no one's in it but the person, the imposter. There's no way to hide from that kind of thing. And it stretches the whole length of the restaurant. So if any place in the restaurant is there, they'll see that person's standing there. And if they see them And it's not like they're going to be able to hide behind much of anything because those people won't be seen in there. So yeah, I really liked that idea more so than the episode itself. But there's something that happens in this, and I'm not sure what the hell was going on. I don't know if it was an edited thing or whatever, but a lot of the deaths in this are freeze framed for a second, and they're just still images. But in this one, the neck where he probably was cut open for them to be drinking blood out of him was like a black box was put over it. I don't know what that was. I'm sure if I looked in some trivia somewhere, but please tell me what the fuck was going on there. I am super curious. But I'm guessing edited for TV or something and made it on the DVD. Where the hell is the real picture where the guy's neck? I don't know. That was odd. Moving on to the second segment. Now, this guy marries this girl. His friend seems really like, oh my God, how'd you land this chick? This is our friend's daughter? Like, I was expecting this chick to be considerably younger than him, you know. And while it's a pretty older lady, I mean, for her age, for sure, they don't look all that much different in age. Maybe it's just because she's prettier than he is able to get. But I don't know, the interaction he had with his friend did seem to suggest that he was wedding a much younger woman, and how the hell could he have possibly landed that? Look at him. What does he have to offer somebody that young and hot? And when we see her, like, almost instantly after, I'm like, huh? Like, I feel like she's in his wheelhouse. Like, she's about the same age, right? I mean, maybe not, but I don't know. That was just odd to me. I was expecting some hot 20-year-old or, 30-year-old or something, but chick didn't look all that much older than him. Younger than him, should I say. And now, I grew up in a house. I grew up in a hoarder house when I was a kid. My mother was a fucking filthy slob and didn't have any organization skills at all, just threw shit everywhere, and I literally had to like dig paths through my house to get to stuff. Yes, like that shit you see on TV. Yes, I grew up in a house like that. But then I would have like a stark contrast because I would come back to my father's house for for summer or for whatever, and my stepmother that he was married to at the time was a cleanly, organized freak like the guy in this movie. And it was so hard to go back and forth between the two because it was like so messy here. And if I tried to clean anything up in the messy house when I got home from the clean house, my mom would be like, no, you can't throw that away. No, you can't touch that. You can't. She just freaks the fuck out because her brain's all fucked up. She can't handle that stuff. And then vice versa, like I would come there and I'd be so used to being dirty that I'd literally do anything. A microbe would be on the fucking floor and she'd be like, what is this? So it's just, and being around somebody who's like that, like any extreme, like that's what I always say. Life is always about balance. Extremities in any way, like to the extreme in any way is not a good thing. Like doing anything to the extreme is not a good thing. And this is like one of those examples. Living with a person like that would drive you to madness. I don't know about killing. I mean, I don't think, anybody's capable of murder. I do believe that. But would everybody kill this guy? No. But she's obviously in a mental state, and wherever he pushes her and where she's at in her life, whatever, he pushes her to the brink where she fucking takes a hammer and bashes his head in. And while I don't condone murder, I completely understand the frustration and anger in this woman of like, you had me so fucked up from all of the requirements. Because she doesn't have anywhere else to go. She's talking to, her friend or whatever, and she's like, my dad didn't have any more money. I didn't have a career. This is what I had. This was my option. This is what I took. She didn't have anything else. So it wasn't like she could just leave. Could she? Sure, but this was a different time. It wasn't so easy for a woman to just go out and get a job and whatnot. It's not even easy now, but it's definitely a different time. So I don't know. I did sympathize with this woman. And I'm glad that it was him that was in the vault and not her in this movie, because he's the fucking asshole of this. But anyway, moving on to the... Oh, I also, really quick, forgot. I love that she cuts him up into pieces. His liver, his heart, his eyes, his teeth, his everything, and organizes them perfectly in little jars and puts them all up on the shelves. Fucking poetic justice, awesome ending. Holy shit, that was freaking great. Love that. There's also another weird cut in this one as well when she's hammering. It's really odd. I don't understand what's going on with that stuff, but I'm guessing there's something with a TV edit or something. But yeah. Third act, third segment. It's okay. I wasn't big on this one. Magician goes and is wanting to steal an act from some street magician. Exposes one guy like a dick. Like, you already know he's a dick, because magicians don't out other magicians on how their fucking things are done. That's why that dude who was on TV back in like the 90s on Fox, I think, or whatever, and he like, you know, showed everyone how every big magic trick was done. Every magician wanted that guy dead. And he like revealed his face at the end because he wore like a freaking mask the entire time. Like, that guy was a dick. For real. That's a dicky thing. Did I watch that show? Absolutely. Because it was super interesting to find out how it was all done. But he was a magician too, and you just don't do that. That's not cool. You know, people make a living off that stuff, whatever. It's just against the magician code. And for him to go out there and to try to be stealing their shit, and when it's not good enough for his act, he goes and exposes them. He's an asshole. And then, you know, he finds this trick, which ends up actually being magic, which, you know, a magician is always going to try to see through it, which is cool. I like that idea. He's the, you know, he's a guy who's never ever going to believe what is in front of him. And he's like me, you know. But he finds this girl who's doing actual magic, questions it to the last second, and brings her back to the hotel room because she won't sell him the trick. And his wife is totally in on killing this girl for the trick. Now, him going and, you know, stealing tricks from other people and her being in on that, and him exposing other magicians and her finding that funny and like, okay, like that is, you know, wow. But her being totally okay with killing her too, man, this chick is just as much to blame. Where was she in the vault at the end of this? Like, does she have to relive this shit? Because she's just as much at fault as this fucking guy. So, I don't know. The fact that she's not there, maybe she's in her own hell. Maybe there's like a female vault of horror going on at the same time. And that chick who hammered her fucking husband is in there with her or whatever. But I just, even though I don't feel like she deserved it as much as this girl, there's different levels of hell too, right? Like 7 layer levels or whatever. Maybe she's in the 7th. But I actually was shocked in this one though for a second, because I haven't seen this in a while, so I forgot a lot of it. When she climbs to the top of the rope and she's practicing what will become their act, which obviously never does. She disappears. Like, she screams out and her body just disappears. We never see her again. Blood starts to pool at the roof. Whatever that meant, I don't know. If maybe her body transported to the top of the room and it was leaking through and bleeding down through the ceiling. But it was like magically appearing. It wasn't appearing naturally like blood would form on wood. So I don't know exactly what that meant, but I don't know. It just shocked me that she disappeared. I wasn't expecting it at all. So that one definitely got me. Moving on to the 4th one. Guy wakes up, buried alive. Now this one, they actually kind of make a funny joke. One of the guys who hears the story at the end of this segment, he is like, I can't remember exactly what he says. I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but he's like, that's an absolutely ludicrous or like absurd or whatever story. And it is. It's fucking so far-fetched. Not saying that any of these aren't. There's vampires and other ones. So I'm not saying that. But the convenience of everything in this is ridiculous. So he has this perfect plan to inject himself with this stuff, Romeo and Juliet style. He's going to wake up and he's going to cash in the life insurance policy. Him and his buddy are going to go off, whatever. And the guy double crosses him and he puts him in the grave and he's going to drive off with his money. And he just so happens to be living next door to some, I don't know what these guys are. I don't know what they are, but they want a human cadaver. Just so happens to. Then they find out that their neighbor died, and they rush over, and they're all like looking at each other like, all right, like we're gonna get a fresh body. Like, this guy's super fresh. We know him. He's right here. Let's wait till he's buried. Let's go dig him up. And when they do, they dig him up just as he's about to run out of oxygen. He comes up out of the ground, which scares them, and then they like cartoon run away, like where it like speeds up and it plays like goofy music as it runs. That was a poor choice. It killed the atmosphere that they created. That could have been a genuinely scary moment as he jumped up and they ran away, but they did the cartoon thing, which was dumb. And then they run out, which the car is driving, and he sees him and he swerves around him and crashes into a tree, the guy who's getting away with all the money. And then they come back, and the guy who was digging up the grave, he actually, when he like is throwing the dirt at the guys and he's like, can you throw it this way, and then he switches sides and he throws it in his face. I don't know, I actually got a chuckle out of me. It was pretty stupid, but for some reason I did laugh at it. But he'd come back and he had stabbed the guy through the throat, so both of them ended up dying. As I said, it couldn't have been more convenient. And then the cartoon runny thing was really bad as well. I'm moving on to the last segment, the fifth segment. The voodoo painter. He gets betrayed, so he goes to a voodoo doctor. Voodoo, whatever, fucking expert, not a doctor, maybe he is a doctor, I don't know. He sticks his hand in some like boiling water. I guess that gives his hand the ability to manipulate his artistry, his paintings, to do whatever he wants with them. Finds out he can, get a rat to eat a piece of toast and break a vase and cut his face and whatever. And then he goes and he fucking gouges one guy's eyes out, cuts another guy's hands off, and makes a guy shoot himself through the head. The best part of this for sure was the paint thinner falling through, it pouring onto his face. His face is all mangled, and a car comes and runs his face over. I actually thought it was pretty cool that not only did he think to protect his photo with a safe, his painting with a safe, so that he couldn't get hurt, because he knew that if anything happened to that painting, he would go with it. But also that it went to the fact that he was locked in there and his painting started to run out of oxygen, which is he started to get really hot and he couldn't move. Or maybe he was just, I don't know, he was so hot that he could, but I don't know. So I thought it was funny that he came back and he opened up the safe, and as soon as he did and he pulled it out, I guess he could breathe again. That's how I took it, that he wasn't being able to get oxygen. But he celebrates not being able to breathe anymore. Like, he celebrates the fact that he can breathe after not being able to breathe for a while by smoking a cigarette. What a dumb fuck. No offense to people who smoke, but really, that's how you celebrate? But then, yeah, him taking it out, the shit splashes on it and mutilates his face, and he gets hit by the... and then they have to, at the end we find out that they have to relive this night over and over and over again with no memory of it. But if you have no memory of it, is it really... I don't know. Like, I always see that in these movies where they relive the same night over and over again, but they have no recollection of living the night over and over again. So every time it just zeroes itself out, and they're only just experiencing it for the first time. So it's just almost like alternate universes where you just only experience it once, and then you go, and then you kind of phase out to then recycle and start over, but you have no memory of it. So it's not like it's actually happening to you again. You actually kind of just die right there as you go out and you stop existing. So like the redundancy, like there's like the Groundhog Day thing, Groundhog's Day without a memory of the day that you'd lived previously wouldn't work. You just, like, if you had no memory of it, maybe they only have memory of it until the very, very end, because he turns to the camera and he has the meta moment, like, we have to relive this night every night. It's pretty poor. But I don't know, it just kind of, it takes away from it a little bit. Like, if at the end, like, they're like, oh my god, I have to do this again. Maybe that was the first, and then we just get to see it over and over. I don't know. It, as I said, it just doesn't add anything to the, oh my god, they have to relive it forever. It's like, that doesn't work, actually, because of this. But that's me being a dick and overanalyzing everything, as usual. Anyways, I've ran on long enough about both of these. Good night. I'm glad to be back. It's good to be back. Yeah, I don't know which one's next. I can't remember. But I'll get to some more anthologies tomorrow. All right, guys.